North East moves on to the cusp of a ton as Hampshire dominate day one. Essex visited Hampshire at the Aegeus Bowl, with the 2017 champions looking to make another tilt at the title and boosted by the full-time services of Knight of the Realm Sir Alistair Cook. Hampshire skipper James Vince has promoted himself to opener this season in order to further his international ambitions, and the move looked to have paid off as he stroked 3 boundaries in an over from fellow England hopeful Porter in typically stylish fashion. His partner Weatherly square-cut a couple of boundaries of his own, but he was first to fall when he drove Quinn with not enough foot movement and was caught easily at slip by Wesley. Vince continued in similar fashion, with more aesthetically pleasing strokes before playing round a straight one from Bapara to fall on the stroke of lunch for a frustrating 40 to leave Hampshire 71 for 2 and honours very much even. South African international Markram led the way for Hampshire after the interval, with the 100 coming up not long after he took 2 elegant boundaries off Cook. Markram's first 50 for his new county came up soon afterwards. Quinn made a vital breakthrough in ending a 75-run stand when Markram fell for 63, feathering an inside edge through to stand-in wicketkeeper Dan Lawrence. Rousseau came out in aggressive mood, his first 3 scoring shots all going to the boundary. He then followed that up with a 6 over mid-wicket from Cook. Into the evening session, and Rousseau continued in the same vein, reaching his 50 with successive 6s off Harmer. His partner North East brought up his own 50 the following over in slightly more sedate fashion. Rousseau belted another 6 off Harmer before bringing up the 100 stand with North East in the very next over. The South African was starting to look in ominous form before going for one big shot too many and getting caught in the deep, falling for a very entertaining 76 off 66 balls and giving Porter his first wicket. North East pressed on and took his team beyond the 300 mark and into a strong position in the game, before bad light ended the day's play with North East 94 not out, Hampshire 303 for 4. North East's day as Hampshire declare on big lead. Sam North East would resume on day 2 on 94 not out as bad light denied him a first day of the season's century. He would be looking to complete his 100 and bat Hampshire into an unassailable position in the game on day 2. And 5 balls was all it took for North East to score the 6 runs he needed to complete his century when he whipped a ball from Quinn through mid-wicket. North East pushed on after reaching his milestone with a succession of punishing boundaries, and posted a century stand with Dawson as Hampshire tightened their grip on the contest at the Aegeus Bowl. North East brought up his own 150 and his team's 400 in successive balls as Essex struggled in vain for wickets on a benign pitch. That before Dawson brought up his own 50. But it was relief for Essex on the stroke of the lunch break as Bapara finally made the breakthrough, pinning North East in front, the batsman falling for a brilliant 169. Dawson fell for 64 not long into the afternoon session to give Quinn his 3rd wicket. Hampshire looked to accelerate as Alsop lofted Harmer for 6, and Berg helped himself to 3 boundaries in an over. Harmer grabbed his revenge not long afterwards though, as Alsop top-edged a sweep into the hands of Alistair Cook. Hampshire moved past 500 and eventually declared when Berg fell to Harmer for 33. There was much interest in Alistair Cook as Essex's innings began, and the Knight of the Realm made a positive start as he took a couple of boundaries off Fidel Edwards. Edwards, however, produced a beauty to dismiss Brown not long before bad light brought about a premature tea break. And unfortunately, that was to be it for the day, as bad light meant Cook and Essex were unable to return after the interval. 25 for 1 the score at close, a 500-run lead for the hosts going into day 3. Edwards puts Hampshire in control at the Aegeus Bowl. Hampshire's batsmen dominated on day 2 at the Aegeus Bowl to put their team in an excellent position in the game, mainly thanks to Sam Northeast's brilliant 169, which, with valuable support from Dawson, allowed Hampshire to declare on 525 for 8. Essex's hopes of saving the game largely rested with Alistair Cook, who reached the end of play unbeaten on 17 as Essex closed on 25 for 1, still 500 behind. Cook collected his first boundary of the day from the final ball of a Fidel Edwards over, but his partner Wesley was gone in the next as Abbott extracted just enough movement off the pitch to take out leg stump. Cook remained typically watchful, putting away the odd bad ball to the boundary, but remaining patient as he looked to settle in for a big innings. With the pitch remaining good to bat on, Essex's hopes would have risen as Cook and Lawrence reached 90 for 2 without many dramas, Cook reaching his half-century in the process. But disaster struck when, the same over in which he reached 50, a lapse in concentration saw Cook clip a catch to Vince at mid-wicket, a second wicket of the day for Abbott. And Essex suffered a further blow when Dan Lawrence, having looked in excellent nick for 31, was bowled by a brilliant Fidel Edwards Yorker on the stroke of lunch. That left Essex in all sorts of trouble, with 4 wickets down, still 417 behind, and Cook back in the hutch. Experienced pair Bopara and Tenduscarter looked to hang on for Essex, with the Hampshire attack probing away at the beginning of the afternoon session. Fidel Edwards caught out Tenduscarter with a slower ball, and then got Harmer with a fast and full one with the very next delivery. Porter hit a couple of boundaries off Berg before he was trapped by Barker LBW. And Barker struck again in his next over in the same fashion to remove Sam Cook. Essex was staring down the barrel, but Bopara raged against the dying of the light with successive boundaries off Dawson, the first a sublime 6. But he lost his partner in the next over, Edwards too good for Quinn and bowling him with a fast and full ball. With Wheater unable to bat because of injury, it brought an end to both the session and the innings. Hampshire inevitably enforced the follow-on, and while Cook collected his first boundary with a check drive, Brown fell cheaply LBW to Barker. Cook wasn't able to hang on much longer, however, a beauty from Abbott taking the edge. It began to look ominous for Essex when Lawrence also fell LBW to Abbott. Bopara turned on the style to collect back-to-back boundaries, and he managed to stem the tide with a 50-run stand in partnership with Wesley. Edwards, though, made the breakthrough when Wesley feathered through to the keeper to fall for 24. But Bopara was still there to reach his 50, and Essex were able to reach the close without further loss. They had made a better fist of batting at the second attempt, but they still need a further 229 to avoid an innings defeat with only 6 wickets in hand. Crucially though, Bopara remains, and he looks in excellent touch for his 60 not out so far. Abbott's second innings 5-wicket haul finishes the job for Hampshire. Hampshire looked set for a big innings victory as Fidel Edwards' 5-wicket haul ripped through the Essex first innings and forced them to follow on. Only Cook's 50 and Bopara's 37 not out offered any resistance as Essex were bundled out for 164, and after Hampshire enforced the follow-on, Bopara looked good for an unbeaten 60, but Essex still finished 4 down at the close and still 229 shy of forcing Hampshire to bat again. Essex's hopes of saving the game largely rested on Bopara and skipper Tenduscarter, who brought up the 50 partnership with a couple of boundaries. Tenduscarter then fell in controversial circumstances when he was adjudged to have feathered an edge through to the keeper for 36, the Essex captain clearly not thrilled with the decision. Bopara pressed on, however, continuing the excellent form he'd shown the previous evening, and he collected 2 fours off a Fidel Edwards over. The former England man was looking a class apart as he moved into the 90s. and he duly brought up a chanceless 30th first-class 100 in the over before lunch. With his partnership with Harmer an unbroken 71, Essex still 132 short of making Hampshire bat again. Bopara was furious with himself after driving loosely at a ball from Abbott and edging through to the keeper, falling for a brilliant 107 just after the interval. He put on 111 with Harmer, but Essex still needed 90 to make Hampshire bat once more. Unfortunately for the away side, Harmer fell soon afterwards, with Edwards beating him for pace and pinning him LBW. It then didn't take long for Abbott to wrap up the win for Hampshire, when he got Porter edged to second slip, and in his next over nipped one back to bowl Cook and complete his 5-wicket haul. And with Wheater unable to bat, it completed a comprehensive victory for Hampshire by an innings and 87 runs. An excellent start to the season for a team that may well harbour title-winning ambitions. 24 points their reward as they go top of the table. Essex left with just one.